Hey guys, so today we are going to talk about um, our other type of dependent clauses, which are dependent clauses beginning with relative pronouns. As a reminder, our relative pronouns are who, which, and that. We've talked about these type of dependent clauses before, but today we're going to learn about how to punctuate those. Okay, so to help us out, I'm going to go to our grammar textbook, which is under the resources section of your Google Classroom. So I'm going to do that grammar textbook, clicking on that. All right, and then I'm going to go to our table of contents, all right, and down to sentence structure, and click on our clauses beginning with relative pronouns. Okay, so a lot of times we focus on our dependent clauses that begin with our subordinating conjunctions, aka our WUPUS words like after, although, while, because, if, since, all of those, okay? But as you hopefully remember, there's a second kind of dependent clause, which begins with relative pronouns. All right, the relative pronoun acts as the subject of the sentence, or subject of the clause rather, and stops the clause from standing alone. Now, those relative pronouns are usually going to be who, which, and that. If you need a longer review, you can always click on the video in your grammar textbook and look at a more extensive review of those types of clauses. But today I want to focus on punctuating those clauses. Okay, so there are two types of dependent clauses beginning with relative pronouns. The first type is an essential clause. Okay, so essential clauses are necessary to the sentence. They can't be taken out of the sentence without changing the meaning. Okay, so some examples: the student who sits at the back of the room asks a lot of questions. Student just by itself, I don't know which student it is, so I need to specify. I need to tell you which student it is. All right, similarly with results, that's a pretty general term, okay? So that I obtained tells me which results we're referring to. Journalist, again, could be any journalist. So whose story I read yesterday, that's a specific journalist that I'm talking about, okay? So usually these relative pronouns are gonna follow a noun and they're gonna tell me which one it is, okay? Now, non-essential relative clauses, just like it sounds, okay, they are not essential to the sentence. So they add information, but they can be taken out of the sentence without changing the meaning. So you'll also often find non-essential clauses after proper nouns, because in that case, I already know exactly which noun I'm referring to. So like Mr. Smith, who lives down the street, I don't need that who lives down the street. It's adding information, but I've already given you the person's name, so I've already given you a proper noun. So that's just adding information. It's not essential to the sentence. All right, the Morningdale hypothesis, which I tested throughout the research. Okay, so which I tested throughout the research, that's adding information. I've already given you the specific name of this hypothesis, so I already know which one I'm referring to. All right. Which I had been looking for. Again, we're giving a specific article, the Daily News article. So I already know which one it is. This is just giving me extra information. Okay. Now, you might have noticed when I was going through this that these essential clauses had no commas around them, and these non-essential clauses have commas around them. Okay. So basically, if it's a non-essential clause, if it's something I can take out of the sentence, okay, without changing the meaning of the sentence, then it needs to have commas around it, okay? Hint, which is going to be very helpful, clauses that start with which are always non-essential. That's like how we use which. That's the difference between which and that. Which goes with non-essential clauses. That goes with essential clauses. So if you see a clause starting with which, that means you need a comma. Okay, and notice if it's in the middle, if these non-essential clauses are in the middle of the sentence, you're going to put a comma on either side. If they're at the end of the sentence, you're just going to put a comma before them. Okay, so let's recap. Two types of dependent clauses, right? One beginning with our WUPUS words, one beginning with our relative pronouns. Okay, for our clauses beginning with relative pronouns, you can have essential ones that must stay in the sentence and do not have commas, or non-essential ones, which can be taken out of the sentence and do need commas, okay? Focus on the fact that it's usually going to come after a noun, okay? And those essential clauses will give us important information about that noun that we need to identify it. And non-essential clauses will just add kind of unnecessary, non-essential information about that noun, okay? So non-essential clauses do have commas, essential clauses do not, all right? Which always begins non-essential clauses, and that begins essential clauses. All right, we'll do some practice with this, so hopefully this will make more sense as we go along. But little preview of all of that just to get us started.